All right, we are live in Facebook, and I'm going to hit record as well. Good morning, Andrea. How are you this morning?
Good morning, darling. I'm great now that we've found each other.
We got there. Good morning, ladies, in my beautiful Compassionate Women's Health community. My name's Belinda Chapman, the host of this lovely community. We're graced this morning with the presence of Andrea Lopez. So I'm just introducing her more formally. Andrea is well known for her beliefs in traditional health and healing when it comes to supporting women's health issues and prevention. With a passion for educating and supporting women through the various stages and initiations of life, she brings a wealth of experience and a collection of learnings from her travels, family heritage, motherhood, and clinic practice. Andrea has been a body worker from 1997 with a strong focus on women's health since 2007. She has enjoyed the learnings and studies from trainings in Belize with Rosita Avigo, along with Jen and Fiona here on Australian soil, and various other professionals and experts in the field of women's health. She has whispered to many a womb over the years and finds each woman who presents in clinic another learning and deepening of wisdom worth sharing. So Andrea is going to be talking about the work she does in her practice. I've just lost the name of it, Mama Medicina. And she's had the label of womb whisperer over the years. So would you kindly share with us, please, what this modality is, like what you bring to clinic and to your practice, and just the main elements and how it works. Oh, I've lost your sound. I can't hear you at the moment. Was there something you pressed on that little microphone, maybe? No. Try it now. Oh, shame. We could hear each other a second ago. I'm hearing some noise.
Am I back?
Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I just unplugged and plugged back in. Okay, so you're asking me about what I do in clinic, which is kind of the biggest question. And I wish I could answer it in one sentence.
You don't have to.
But how I see every woman is as a biography. I see each woman that comes to me as a biography, whether she's coming to me for something to support a particular diagnosis she's just had, or whether she's wanting to connect with herself more. She's this book to me. And when she comes to me, certain pages want to be revealed, certain chapters want to be revealed. And the perspective that I look through are 3 points. One is the positioning of the uterus within the pelvis, because that's considered insignificant in modern medicine as well as a lot of alternative therapy. So the positioning, which is a huge conversation in itself. The second thing I look at is the performance of the womb, how it's performing, how does she bleed, how does she ovulate, how's her fertility, how does she recover, how's her delivery, and also how is her pleasure? Is she able to orgasm? Because there's a lot of women that have difficulty in that department. And the third thing I look at is what's the relationship that this woman has with this part of herself. Because if she has painful periods, often she feels cursed, or if she's having fertility issues, she feels a lot of blame or failure. Particularly because of such a young age, we're told that if we look at a boy, we're going to fall pregnant. And then when we're actively trying to conceive and it's not happening, we feel very failed in the most basic things. So these are the 3 things I look at. And then we can dive into a woman's biography as far as with the perspective of those 3 lenses.
Yeah, beautiful. Right. And what are the common, you said that women will bring a diagnosis or want to sort of reconnect. What are some of the questions or the the pains or the problems that they are coming with?
It's things are changing. For a long time, I was the last resort. So women would go to all the specialists and then find me. Even though ultrasounds couldn't show anything, or MRIs or scans couldn't show anything, they would come and they'd say, something's still not right, even though nothing was measured. And I'm really curious about that woman, because everyone has told her she's crazy and she's still listening to her gut. So I'm very impressed by this kind of woman, and I see her as quite brave to continue looking for the answers. And so I'm all ears, which is like, something's not right. I'm like, well, I'm listening to you. You're onto something. And that gut is more powerful than an ultrasound in my vision. But a lot of it is everything. You know, it's so hard to say there's just one category, because women's health in the modern medicine has its absolute place, but it's failing us in a lot of ways as well. Things like painful periods is considered normal. And it is a part of the design if the womb is struggling for some reason. So that's what makes it normal, is so many women have it. That's what makes it normal.
It makes it common.
Yes.
Normal.
Yes, thank you. So that's the painful period is probably the easiest one to support. But we need to get the woman connected, because often, especially in the modern culture and in the Anglo culture, we're not connected to our pelvises. You know, we walk with these linear strides. We're not walking from our hips. We're not connected to this part of ourselves until we have a diagnosis, or until we want to ask the uterus of its supreme function, which is fertility, and we're having troubles with that. Besides that, even though our womb is talking to us every month, we're either inconvenienced by it, or there is a movement where women are connecting to this part of us. But our womb health helps us understand our overall health in so many ways. And that's something that we're not aware of, either until we're a diagnosis, or there's trauma, or there's a recovery. So for all the reasons, menopause, endometriosis, lichen sclerosis, trauma, vaginismus, all the reasons women come to me. But the intention is, well, let's get you connected to where your body is calling you home for so long.
Yeah.
Because each problem to me is the body talking.
Yeah.
And the design of the body is incredible. And I have so much faith in the design, because it proves me wrong and I love it. And so I've never get in the way of a woman's healing, because I really think if she's devoted, we can heal ourselves from massive things. And of course, I still think there is a place for surgery and all that sort of, and then the support from post-surgery is needed as well. But I think when the world flips and people like myself, or people doing natural women's health, is the first port of call, that's when I consider my rocking chair and my hip flask.
Oh, I love it. So tell me a little bit about you and your story, and how you came to be working in this space.
Okay, so I am the typical wounded healer, in the way that I was already in body work, and was faced with massive problems once trying to push a human out. And this left me questioning a lot of things where I wasn't finding the answers. And then what seemed like I had normal periods, once I started looking into it, I actually realized I wasn't. And just because they were pain-free, I thought they were normal, or I thought they were good, or I thought they were healthy. But in actual fact, there was a lot of things going on around my uterus that was indicating pelvic health problems, such as constipation, such as frequent UTIs, such as migraines, hormonal migraines, such as lower back pain, such as broken veins in my legs, but nothing that pointed directly to my uterus until 9.5-pound baby trying to come out. So then I was faced with all these things, and then I realized I needed to know more. And that's when I found Rosetta in Belize. And that's the first time I came across this idea of the displaced uterus,
Mm.
which then intrigued me. And because I already had a strong practice, I looked at the list and I thought, oh my God, I would say this is about 80% of my women
Huh.
have these symptoms.
Yeah.
So it was a strong calling. I took my child, and he wasn't even 2 yet, and his father. We went to Belize, and I just threw myself in, and came to understand a lot of the things that my own grandmother, because I'm South American, my own grandmother was trying to tell me, but I, of course, thought she was the most uncoolest, crazy person around. So I had to spend my life savings and learn from someone else. But what Rosetta was able to do was bring the science in for me. And that was really interesting, because how my grandmother was presenting it had a lot of Catholicism in it. And, you know, things like you shouldn't wash your hair when you're menstruating because the devil will enter into your head, right? Wasn't enough science for me. But then, you know, later I came to learn that we're not to get cold when we're menstruating. So, you know, getting cold in the head or going for swims where, you know, so that's what she provided me, but it all brought home what I was already living, but not knowing that I was living it. So once I studied with Rosetta, I came back, and that opened up curiosity with each client. You know, was another book to read, another book to read, another book to read, and then I came across Jenny Blythe and Fiona Hallinan's work. And they teach the intravaginal work, so the pelvic floor release work, which can be considered quite radical. But because I've been doing it for so long now, I just see it as the most important piece of the puzzle in women's health. Because when we're working with hip issues and things like that, of course, why wouldn't we look at it internally as well? And so that deepened my practice even more. And that is a whole other interesting revealing and reacquaintance, because of the gentleness of the pelvic bowl and how strong the fibers are, because it's designed to hold a baby, a placenta, and all the fluid. But how responsive the pelvic bowl is just to the most gentlest of touch, because it just wants to feel acknowledged. We just want to feel met as women. And the minute that tissue feels met, it surrenders and reveals itself. So then it reveals the tissue, which reveals the woman, which is fascinating. Yes.
So how do you progress then if someone is presenting with the symptoms of vaginismus, and part of those pages is that you need to do that intravaginal work? Like, how do you progress through that with that woman? I know I'm sure it's quite independent, individual, but like, what are some of those general kind of steps that you might?
Thank you, Belinda. That's a great question. I never do the intravaginal work as a first session.
I can imagine.
We start with a full body session first, but the focus is the belly, the pelvis, and the sacrum. This is where I spend most of the time, and the rest of the body gets a beautiful flush out. And then we follow on with a womb steam, where I cook up herbs, and I have my special stool, and women sit over that. And then we report back. You know, I want to hear about how that was for them. How was their bleed after our session? Or, you know, how did they feel afterwards? Because sometimes there can be discharge and all this sort of stuff after the steam. So it's a nice purification, nice cleanse, a nice nourishment for the womb. And now I've had a conversation with the body, then we can deepen into a further session. Generally, the second session, I like to demonstrate women how to massage their own bellies, how to do the steams at home, and that kickstarts them into their home program. And then hopefully they've done that with a lot of devotion for at least a month. And then we're ready for the internal work, if that's what she so chooses. In the way of vaginismus, it's there's a lot of home prescription for that, so the steams are fantastic for that. And self-examination. A lot of women haven't examined themselves, and the most empowering thing is to know our own landscape and to be our own doctors, to know when we need to outsource.
Yeah.
So my dream is that a woman is out of my care within 3 months, and she's just got her lifetime tools, and she just comes back whenever she needs a top up or something like that, or an honouring or a deep honouring. She might be needing a pregnancy massage or a postpartum attention, or so it's not just, I get excited when a woman comes just because she wants to be deeply honoured. It's not the 99% of the problems, you know. So that's beautiful too, and that's shifting. There's so many shifts happening. There's so much womb wisdom rising and everything. So it's a really exciting time.
Yeah. And I think when someone comes to you from a space of that self-care, can go that much deeper, because you're already working from such a beautiful, positive platform and building on that.
Yeah, to be your own medicine with your own two hands after going to so many specialists is so empowering. Yeah, it's wonderful to watch that transformation.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
All right, I'd love to hear some success stories, like some of the women that you've seen have launched, you know, off into this beautiful life after that 3 months, and have come back and told you their stories.
Oh, well, you know, there's so many that I could just bawl my eyes out in front of you, because they all make me cry with joy. And you know, it seems really basic, you know, where a woman may have not had her periods for a year and they return. You know, that's a huge thing for a woman's life, because that also, you know, she wants to be cycling, she wants to be connected to nature and her own body, she wants her body to be performing in the best, and she also might be wanting to have a baby. So something that seems quite small is quite big for each woman. Women that have come to me with, you know, after failed IVFs or, you know, failed all these things and then conceive. One particular case who I just adore, and I call her my favorite encyclopedia. She had a lot of surgery, a lot of procedures as a little girl. So there was a lot of scar tissue that affected everything in her pelvis, and was pretty much told that if she was to carry a baby, she's risking her own life and her baby's life. And so there was just all this, and I'm happy to say she has a 2-year-old baby and they're both very alive and happy. So yeah, there's just so many stories, and just, you know, the recurring one of, I am living without pain. I'm able to make love without pain. So each one of those for me is just as big as the other. You know, there's so many miracle stories like that, and just women being able to connect with themselves and feel like they participated in their healing. Is extraordinary to witness. So yeah, there's countless stories. I wish I was better at administration because I would, you know, like document them.
So a lot of women in this community have experienced endometriosis or PCOS. Are they common symptoms or diagnoses that you work with women?
Very much, yeah. Endometriosis is quite fashionable in the last sort of 20 years, and I have big suspicions around how much the displaced uterus creates endometriosis.
Okay.
Because basically endometriosis comes from that endometrial lining backwashing out of the fallopian tubes and becoming displaced tissue. That, because I believe in the design of the pelvis so much, I can't see how that would happen with a uterus that's in its optimal position.
Yeah. And it has actually been found in a way that it's not the backwash. Like they've actually apparently found endometriosis in men. So the science is showing that
that bit is just, I haven't been able to get my head around that one yet.
Yeah.
So, but if you imagine I'm a uterus, these are my fallopian tubes, and I'm out of position, which, because she can fall into any position, then it's much easier for that backwashing to happen. And yes, it does become very dangerous if that attaches to a vital organ like a kidney or anything like that. Not to mention the extreme pain that women live with, the excessive bleeding, and all this sorts of, and then the recovery from repetitive laparoscopies and all this sort of thing. We have a lot of success with endo when women are devoted to their self-care. It becomes a lifestyle thing. It's not just let's band-aid it, and it is part of their lifestyle. And the beautiful thing about that is we're doing our regular abdominal massage. We can't measure what we're preventing outside of that because, we're taking care of the liver, the gallbladder, the spleen, the stomach, the intestines, everything. And so we can't measure what we're preventing by connecting with our core and massaging our core and relaxing all that armoring from the core, because it's our most vulnerable as well as our most powerful. So, you think about emotional health, any emotion that we haven't felt safe to release, to express, the only way to not do that is to contract and hold it down. And a lot of those contractions live in our sweet bellies. So then we get more armored and more reactive and less responsive and less grounded in our bellies. And so it's just such an amazing doorway into the entire biography of a woman, how much she holds her breath, how much she holds herself back. And not to mention in our wonderful Australian culture of tall poppy syndrome, where we're just constantly holding ourselves in, don't shine too bright, all this. It just shows me in the belly all the time.
Yeah, so true. It's interesting that one of the coaching practices that I work with is this multiple brain integration technique, and it acknowledges the head, heart, and gut intelligences. And through this work, where they brought together neuroscience and behavioral modeling and positive psychology, the function of the gut brain is that self-preservation, the mobilization, and the core identity. So it doesn't surprise me that you come across those emotional traits when you're working physically in that space as well. It's so interesting how all these pieces come together.
Yeah. And also because we are getting further away from our gut instinct, our animal self. So, along with the anatomical things I'm looking at with women as far as their uterine positioning and blah, blah, I'm also trying to restore safety in her body. And restoring what's yes and what's no, because we haven't learned that. We've learned to be very polite and very appropriate and never be angry, because a woman shouldn't be opinionated or angry, and do all this so that society will accept us. But I'm like, give me an honest woman with all her emotions and you'll see a healthy person.
That's it. Like the highest expression of the gut is courage.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. And as being women, it's so in our subconscious, we're not even aware of it because we've only been in this body. But the amount of times we walk into a bar, let's say, and measure up, okay, how many guys, where's the front door, where's the back door, how far's my car parked? Oh, okay, we're measuring up our safety all the time without even knowing it. And then there's the other side of that same thing where, as blossoming young maidens, when we're blossoming and we're aroused all the time and our bodies are in puberty and we have to tone it down. We can't ask the guy to dance. We can't show the first kiss. We can't do any of that. Is that too much? Is this too little? Am I too this? I can't blossom open in front of our tribe safely. So where is it that we can actually outstretch ourselves? And so I try and provide a safe space for a woman to stretch herself out, get in contact with her essence, get in contact with her own yes and no, because so many women, even in loving relationships with understanding partners, will give their bodies to their partner and say yes when their body's saying no. And so, and our body hears that. Our body hears our internal dialogue saying, I really don't feel like making love tonight. All I want to do is just curl up and dream. But then we just, sure, honey, here's my body, take it, do what you will with it, because I'll just empty, or I'll just, vacate or whatever. So, and that's in loving relationships. So imagine the impact of non-consensual stuff as well. So the yes and no is a really big one that I try and empower women with.
And how do you do that? Like, what are some of the steps that you work with on women on that?
We start with really basic ones where, I absolutely encourage, if anything's uncomfortable, if they need anything, please tell me. And every time they tell me something, I always thank them. And we just get into really honest conversations where they may not have been able to have those honest conversations with their friends, or with the image they're trying to live up to and keep up with. And so when we come in and go, okay, well, what's your honesty? And the most honest we are with ourselves is when we're about to bleed.
Yes. Label PMS, because it's societally accepted to be labeled that.
Yes. Well, I call it PMS for premenstrual sensitivity, because actually just before we bleed, that 5 days before we bleed, or we're in our most perceptive, we're in our most intuitive. We're already perceptive, intuitive creatures being women, but we are in peak of that. But you put that superpower in a modern world, we're doing lunches and breakfast and laundry and with this ability to actually download guidance for the whole tribe. Of course, we're going to be irritable, because we've had to be that sensitive to receive this much, like a satellite. To be that sensitive, all the hormones drop, the immune system drops. So we're in our full animal self and we're in full communion at the same time. Of course, we're going to be irritable. Life feels like sandpaper. But what do? We call ourselves a bitch. When actually we're in our superpower of the month. And I just want to show you something. It's also with perimenopause, which is like one massive premenstrual truth. But that is the size. You obviously can't see the weight, but that's the size of the uterus. And that is a menstruating uterus.
So much bigger.
So much bigger, and double the weight. Yeah. So it's this size 5 days before we start the bleed. So some women might say, oh, I don't normally get constipated, but just before my period I do. Yeah. So these are all big clues. There's a lot of clues. Our body's always talking to us. It's the most honest thing.
Yeah. I love that distinction you made about that, like the more spiritual awareness and understanding of that PMS, because I recently did a more neuroscience course around the women's brain, and researchers haven't found that PMS is like, they haven't found a reason for it. Like it isn't scientifically proven. And one of the reasons that we were discussing is because these women are put in these quiet labs with no real life like distractions and like multitasking. Of course they're not going to be overloaded. They're going to be just whatever.
Yeah, because that's what we need to be doing is that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
in real life though.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, so that's one I try and tell as many women as possible. I spread the word. We actually have superpowers, and the premenstrual sensitivity is the peak of our superpowers. So it's a time to honor ourselves and to have a very gentle inner dialogue, and not go, oh, why am I being such a bitch? No, you're being in your superpower, and that's why it feels coarse, and that's why everything feels, so it's a big clue to kick back, maybe check yourself into the lab that they're doing these tests on. Sounds like you get to relax.
I know, that'd be lovely. I love that reframe though, and I think that's so important about all these aspects of women's health and the menstrual cycle, is that reframe and the phases as well, and how menopause has just had such a bad reputation for so long. And I said to someone the other day, it might just be because I'm coming into that age, I am like kicking off perimenopause, that I am really like my reticular activating system is like anything perimenopause. But I really feel like the conversation is changing. Like there's less shame and taboo around, and there's more reframing of just what this phase that we move into really enables us to do.
Yes, it's a very powerful time, and I love walking with the perimenopausal and the menopausal woman. I call it our crowning time, where we really come into our queendom, and it's, we no longer have to validate ourselves by being fertile to offer the community another offspring. Our validation becomes through our grey hairs, through our heart wisdom. And the womb actually shrinks a little bit. So, so our energy is more here. And so that's when a woman also really starts to see the life she's created, which is why she's been known to be erratic, because she's finally decided, I'm not going to do that extra load of washing, darling. And I've said yes for far too many years, and the respect starts here. So it's a beautiful time to walk with alongside a woman. And I get the really severe cases where mental health is questioned, women have suicidal thoughts, they, a lot of them want to leave their husbands, and so there's a reframe happening, and we just sort of go, all right, well, let's just push all that to the side for now while we can actually reside in our body, and be thankful for all the cycles that the birth death cycles that she's done since she was a young maiden. So it's a very reverent time. And, really, they're only just starting to advertise. They're only just starting to bother with the menopausal woman, where we're finally seeing grey-haired women in fashion. But prior to that, it was just the one, every woman has to look 12 years old to be beautiful. So they're finally catching up that, oh, holy hell, there's a whole demographic here that we can still make money on that we haven't even bothered to market towards. So the demographic, it is top heavy at the moment as far as how many menopausal women, which is why there's a sudden increase in menopausal apps, menopausal ads. They're finally going, oh, there's a little market niche we forgot. So it is exciting that it's become more normalized rather than only a skin frame, non-grey haired, non-wrinkled woman is considered beauty.
Yeah. And what we have to watch then, I guess, with it being commercialized, is that it's the right message is being commercialized. And that's why I love what you were talking about, how it's a message of empowerment rather than, oh, there's something wrong with you, you need this product.
Yes. Yes.
So definitely. Keep an eye on that one and support our women through that one.
Yeah. Oh, it's such an honor. Such an honor. Yeah.
So to wrap up, what are some key things you think are fundamental for good health or women's health that you love sharing with your clients and audiences?
Okay. Definitely go with my grandmother's wisdom, which is to not get to not get cold during our periods. Our body temperature actually drops a little bit along with everything else. So it's important to stay warm because there's so much happening in the pelvis. So that includes warm feet, even though, you know, it gets stinking hot up here in Queensland. You know, you'll see in a lot of traditional cultures, women have inside shoes and outside shoes, you know, because of the tiled flooring or the wooden floors and everything, because it is about the cold feet is a cold womb. So those things are important. I also think high impact during our periods is just forget it. Like, you know, running or working hard, you know, gym, it's just, that's where I, myself included, have caused damage to myself. So that's a really strong message that I have for everyone. And also, she has incredible wisdom. It doesn't matter how much we see that she may have failed us, whether through painful periods or fertility issues or a particular condition that you may have been diagnosed. Her wisdom is beyond that. And if we can take time to just place our hands over our womb space, you know, whether you've had a hysterectomy or not, to place our hands and just have a conversation with her, but to listen more than talk, you know, to really listen, because her wisdom is incredible for every single woman. And also sit with the wise women, talk to the older women. They've got, you know, once you get past the grouchy, they've got a lot of good insight.
And then I kind of, years ago, I deduced that as we get older, we either go down one or the other path. We either go down the bitter path or we go down the fuck it path, you know, like it's like one
Which
or the
one
other.
will you pick?
Yeah. And you can either go, I reckon she's gone down the bitter path. I'll take the wisdom and I'll reframe it that I don't want to do that. Yes. Like, depending on who you talk to.
Yes. And thank you for my last sharing. I think it's lovely for women to acknowledge their period as well, their blood, and to really utilize it as medicine, as an opportunity to discard what they want to let go of from the month we've just had prior to that bleed, and to embody the beauty and the gems that has come their way from that month. So it's almost like we're forced into a ceremony. If we pay attention and if we utilize it, it can be such beautiful medicine. So understanding the quality of your blood too is a really important one. You know, we're looking for beautiful red fresh blood. If there's dark blood, if there's clotting, that's the womb talking to us, asking for support. So there's some good starting points for caring for ourselves.
Thank you so much. Was there anything that you felt we haven't quite covered that you wanted to make sure that women knew as well before we were finished up?
I guess just highlighting that the design of our body is amazing, and we're all entitled to a beautiful pelvic health, beautiful women's health, and beautiful orgasms too. So, you know, it's in our design. So why not just embrace that design and throw all the magazines and the Instagrams and everything that's telling us what's beautiful, stop buying all the products and lip gloss, and definitely stop wearing high heel shoes, and and to embrace our own beauty, I think, is my big thing.
Thank you so much, Andrea.
Oh,
really
thank you. So lovely to have you.
Your time. Really appreciate it. I have said that if everyone has any general sort of questions to pop them in the comments below. I'm hoping you've been added to the group. Joanne's added you.
I have, yes.
Beautiful, wonderful. So Andrea's around. I'm around. If you don't hear from Andrea, I don't know how much of a Facebook user you are, but
I'll do my best.
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Keep love to all the beautiful listeners.
And we'll put how to get in touch with Andrea down in the comments as well. Andrea's website is Mama Medicina.
Yeah, Mama Medicina. There's actually a womb wisdom workshop coming up if anyone's interested in learning how to take care of themselves in
Brilliant.
October. Yeah.
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 On the Sunshine Coast?
Yes, in Yamundi.
Monday.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right.
Yeah.
Well, do you mind popping the details for that
Sure.
as well?
Sure.
That'd be great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again,
Thanks,
Andrea.
lovely. Big love.
Thank you.
Bye, darling.